Welcome back to the Holistically Well podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kayla Borchers, an orthopedic and pelvic health physical therapist, mama of three with another on the way, and a passionate advocate for root cause wellness in every season of womanhood. Today, I am sitting down with Florencia Moynihan, also known as the Catholic Nutritionist, to talk about something we don't often hear enough about: how faith, food, and female physiology can beautifully intersect to restore hormones, energy, and our relationship with our bodies. Flor is a femme instructor and nutritional therapy practitioner who helps women ditch perfectionism and restriction for a nourishing, Christ-centered approach to wellness. You're going to walk away from this conversation with a breath of fresh air and a clearer path toward vibrant health, spirit, soul, and body. Now, let's dive in. So, Flor, tell us a little about yourself and your work as the Catholic nutritionist, and what led you into this faith-based approach to women's wellness.
Yes, thank you for asking. I'm so excited about this. Really, I think like most health professionals, this started with a lot of my own pains and woundedness, of really a lot of confusion and a lot of frustration when it came to the health in the medical world. I struggled a lot with really, really intense periods, really bad gut issues, and then like the underlying theme was this really disordered eating that I struggled with for most of my life. And really, it wasn't until I realized that like you can actually use food to heal and to nourish the body to say goodbye to these symptoms that I thought I was like cursed to live with, that I then started this practice, which is the Catholic Nutritionist. And what we do now is exactly what you were saying. We help women understand their body. To be able to end the war with it, you have to understand it, and to be able to find the root and really find freedom in their relationship with food.
I love it. What has your experience been as you've moved into this? You worked through it yourself, right? And I think as a provider as well, going through something so personally and then getting to help other people through it is just such a neat lens to come from. So do you feel like a lot of women that you serve are in the same shoes that you once were in?
100%. That's also one of the things where it's like the Lord will take your deepest wounds and turn them into your greatest glories, because it's like never in a million years did I think that the like war with my body image would be something that then I could speak from a place of knowledge from, or the fatigue. Like I struggled with a lot of fatigue maybe like 5 to 7 years ago, and like couldn't get through the day without taking multiple naps. And so now getting to like having walked the walk first, and when you're like in your own healing journey, it's always this like, is this gonna work? Like, am I gonna get better? Is this gonna go away? Or is this like just what my life is? Like you always like, you're constantly like checking. And it's honestly like a big test of faith to think like, do I actually think that the Lord can heal me and that things will get better? And so I think it helps me have like a really steady foundation. As I'm walking with women, we work very, very closely with our clients. We see them every single week, and I get to see them go through the waves, which I'm sure you see even your clients go through, of like the ebbs and flows of like, I don't think it's ever going to get better. And you have to be like, no, literally 2 weeks from now, like you just like, this is the natural curve.
Right.
And it like really helps to kind of bring some steadiness into health journeys that don't feel steady. It feels very uncertain a lot of the time.
Yes. And it's not a quick fix. You know, when we get to the root cause of things, it is a journey that you have to go through, and it's not just snap your fingers and you're there. And sometimes you do have to go through those tough moments, and then you get on the other side and you understand why you had to go through all of that. So for you, having your story, like you said, I mean, you wouldn't be able to relate so well with the clients you're walking with if you didn't have to go through those hard moments on your own.
I was reading a book yesterday where she was saying there are years that feel like questions, and then there are years that feel like answers. And that's like what I really, really have experienced, and what I've even seen, that you go through like years of wondering like, why, Lord? Like, why do I have to go through these hormonal issues? Or why am I so exhausted? Or why me? All those kinds of questions that we really begin to ask. And then there's entire years that you start to go, oh, this is why this had to happen this way. This is why I needed to go through this. This is why like you allowed it. Even when I thought that it would be better if I didn't, if I was like, I can't imagine like how many of the things I've been like, Lord, trust me. it'll be so much better if I don't have to go through this. Like, and he's like, literally, you just have to like, let me heal you in this way. So truly, like the years of question and answers, I feel like, obviously I have plenty of questions, but I do feel like I'm living in those years of answers that has given a lot of freedom to be able to confidently lead other women.
I absolutely love that. And his plan is always greater than our own. And sometimes it's only looking in the rearview mirror do we realize why we had to go through different stories that are part of our own. So, what makes your method different from conventional nutritional counseling?
Everything.
Yes, so much.
Everything. So here's a few of the things that we do particularly well and particularly differently. One is that I really, really want you to genuinely understand how things work. It's really like, instead of me giving you the meal plan right away, I want you to understand why, because really we focus on foundations and principles, especially when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to health. There are so many things that feel very nuanced, and that's true. But sometimes nuance can kind of be the enemy of principle, because we think, well, everything has to be like tailored to me, or like this little tiny thing. I always think about how like some of the best health advice is actually in this investment book called I'll Teach You to Be Rich. And in the very beginning of the book, he says, he kind of compares it to nutrition, and he goes, so many people ask me questions about investing, and they're asking me about like which 401k and which stock and all of these like very specific nitty-gritty things. He's like, that's the equivalent of someone be like, should I be on keto or Atkins? But they have like literally no idea what a protein, carb, or fat is. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, you are getting so caught up in the weeds. I also describe it as like, we need to have the foundations first, because otherwise you're just wasting all of your budget on the shingles and the paint on the exterior of the house. When it's like, the shingles aren't going to matter if there's no foundation.
Yes.
So starting with like the foundations and the principles, these are the things that God made true for you and for me. This is like how the human body is meant to function. This is what the body needs. And so some of the foundations that we walk women through are things like your blood sugar regulation. That's like kind of some of my beef with diets like Whole30, is that Whole30 teaches you what not to eat. It doesn't teach you how to eat. Which is why women go through 1, 2, 3, 10 rounds of Whole30, but they don't ever leave actually knowing how to nourish their body. They get really good at reading labels and avoiding things, but it doesn't mean that they know what it needs instead of what we should be avoiding. And so really starting with this foundational approach. 2, conventionally, your body is not looked at as a whole. If you have any issue, let's say a gut issue, you need to go to the GI doctor. Then your skin is breaking out, you need to go to the derm. Then you're having ovarian issues, then you need to go to the gynecologist. Like, you're constantly, the experience of woman is getting constantly split up into different parts. And that doesn't make any sense, which you know full well.
Yes. And that's why I left traditional medicine too, because everything was so siloed, and it became so frustrating of like, well, no, this is all interlinked and interconnected. And if we don't address the whole person, they're constantly going to be jumping from provider to provider, seeking answers and just feeling so worn out by the process. So yes, we need that whole person.
Think about what that does to like the human person, to the soul, especially to a woman's heart, to like constantly have to like compartmentalize. And this is where I see women have gotten really, really good. And I did this too. I don't know if you can relate, but it's like, you literally have to learn how to steamroll past certain symptoms to be able to function and show up in your daily life. Because like, the doctor's appointments aren't helping. You're going to everyone and everyone's telling you something different, or like no one will put the puzzle pieces together. And so at a certain point, there's this like protective mechanism where it's like, it is easier for me not to feel these things. It's easier for me to stop caring. It's easier for me to block these things out. And it's easier for me to stop trying than to like keep going and getting split apart and not getting answers. Which then I think I see women go kind of to the other extreme, where they're like, now I can't trust anybody. And now I need to like DIY everything. And I'm going to spend hours on Instagram, and I'm going to listen to every single podcast, and I'm going to read books. And then we have this like extreme of like, well, actually now you can't heal alone. Like, healing is a community event. Healing requires love, and it requires support, and it requires other people around, because like we cannot see things clearly on our own. So really it just kind of like, I see women swing between the extremes a lot, and we have to come back to the middle of like, okay, if we were to look at this as the whole picture, and that's where like true freedom comes, and the breath of relief that we hear of women being like, I knew that I wasn't crazy. Like, you're telling me that all these things connect? And I'm like,
Right.
absolutely they do. And now we can have a game plan to really see true freedom.
Yes. And having that provider to connect the dots for you, because you're so right. I see both ends of the spectrum as well. And when you're on the end of the spectrum where you're like, okay, I'm going to watch all the YouTube videos and all of the podcast reels and all of the podcast episodes, that's great. And obviously we're on a podcast. We are giving out free education right now because we don't want to gatekeep, and we want to give you so many tools. Yet at the same time, if you feel stuck and plateaued and you're not seeing progress, it's because you're grabbing information from so many different sources that are not strategically progressing one off of the other and connecting all of the dots for you. And so I think that's the difference, bringing in a provider like Flor or like myself, depending on what your specific concerns are, is that we can look at the big picture for you and then help you make the proper next step versus grabbing from random sources but not having a clear plan in place.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of that saying, like, people are like, you can do it all, women can do it all. And then honest people will say, you can do it all, but you can't do it all well.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you were going to choose that route of you doing it all, just know that it's going to be less than 100%, and the output is going to be different than what you want. Whereas, like, learning is one whole category, and mastering the information and mastering how to be like a root cause practitioner is one whole job. Like, it's why we went to school. Then it's a whole other schedule, and it's a whole other time block for you to implement everything that is being learned. And so if you are like serious about seeing healing, if you're serious about moving forward, and if you're serious about getting out of this season that you've been in of like symptoms of pain, whatever it may be, of confusion, then you have to give yourself the space to have full attention on implementing it to your life. Because that's the part that like we can't do for you. I can't like go fill your fridge. I can't make all your meals. I can't like drag you out of bed and take you on that morning walk. I can't throw your phone across the room at night. It's going to take a lot of effort and energy. And so especially women, a lot of times, if they are struggling with their health, fatigue is a part of it, be it mental or physical fatigue and energy issues. And so you really, in the beginning of a healing journey, you have to learn how to budget your energy well until the capacity increases. We're working with what we have. And so with that, we need to like give you the full capacity to focus on what you need to be doing, rather than you learning and figuring out what's right for you and connecting dots and then also trying to implement it.
Yes. So let's jump back to the foundation, because you talked about really looking at the foundation versus getting stuck in the weeds of everything else that like doesn't matter unless your foundation is solid. And you mentioned blood sugar regulation. What else goes into that foundation of somebody's wellness?
Yes. Another one that's critical and is not talked about enough is your circadian rhythm. So the fact that every single cell in your body is designed to work like clockwork. The master clock lives in your brain, and every single cell in your body is trying to keep time. And the way that God designed your body to keep time is with the sun, with light. Light and darkness are the signals that tell your body what time of day it is. Where in the world are we? What do we need to be doing? What should we be eating? Because like food is just stored light code. Like the UV that grows bananas is not the same UV that grows ginger root or potatoes, right? That's why we have such different foods at such different latitudes. So your body is like scanning its environment to know, what should I be doing right now? What should I be focusing on? I also liken it to like your computer. If you have 10 different programs open and 20 different tabs open, it starts to slow down. It cannot do everything at once. And so like, let's say if you are going to record or download a big video project, you have to close everything else and let your computer just focus on that. Your body is kind of designed the same way. It's not going to do every single process at the same time. It actually has this clockwork of there's certain times for the adrenals, there's certain time for gut repair, there's certain time for hormone production. And all of this is designed. The problem is that our modern world is like literally designed to work against the way that your body is designed to function. Because now we have our artificial lights everywhere. We're inside all of the time. We don't really experience like true seasons because you're sitting in 70-degree air conditioning all year long. And now we have these little phone boxes that are constantly telling our face and our eyes, which are what are picking up this light, that it's like bright blue light, middle of the day. We have like all these stress responses that are coming from it. So circadian rhythm is, I call it the foundation of all foundations, because if you can start to get your circadian rhythm in line, everything in your life will be easier. Your energy is going to come back. Your skin's going to clear up. Your cycles will be easier. Weight loss will be easier, because that's where your body is designed to function like. Other things would be like mineral balancing. I teach women their cycle as a main foundation, because I think it's a really important health tool and a data tool. Outside of like, are you trying to get pregnant or not? It's a really simple and easy and free record that you can keep at home every single day and start to build out this kind of map of how your body is functioning without like needing to go run labs every single week.
Yes. So let's chat about labs for a moment. So
I love him.
Is this something that you get on each client when you start working with them, or do you cover those foundational measures first and then get more in the weeds, if you will, or the specifics with labs after getting foundation in place?
Yeah, great question. We have different program tiers, depending on what women are looking for. So the women that are looking for deep lab work, we have them start a couple of foundations. I usually like, if people have the time and space to do it, I like to at least nail down their circadian foundation before they do their lab work, just because that'll kind of like help get the best lab work possible. And then we do that right from the beginning. Then with the other girls, we do have like a slower pace and more foundational thing where it's like, just spend your time focusing on the foundations.
Right.
And then we'll wrap up with some deeper testing. We do some HTMA testing there. But it really depends on the person's journey. If it's someone that is super symptomatic and like they would rate themselves on an 8, 9, or 10 in terms of like, I'm ready to hit pedal to the metal and do what it takes to get answers and do what it takes to see change, like that level of like, I'm ready to work. I'm ready to get things right. Then we start them right away, because the foundations are going to be essential. There are some people though that do really well with having the data in front of them at the beginning, because then it helps motivate a little bit more habit change, because you get to see like it's real and it gets connected back. But if it was up to me, everyone would get their foundations in line first.
Yeah.
Before they did deeper protocols. And I think a lot of times people think that they need really deep lab testing. And it's like, you like need to go all the way back to like your morning and evening routine and what you're eating.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because that is very much where I fall, where I think in a day and age where we have so much data getting thrown our way, people are like, oh, I need labs. Like I need all of the nitty gritty, but they're not sleeping 8 hours a night. They are drinking like 1 water bottle a day. Like literally I will have people come into my office for a noon appointment and I'm like, okay, so like how much water have you drank today? And they're like, nothing. All they've had is a coffee and zero food, so they're not getting protein. They are not getting hydration. And it's no wonder they're having awful headaches, severe fatigue, joint pain, all of that. And so getting those foundations in place first is so important, because if we get the labs and we're just staring at the numbers, it's kind of like in PT where we say we don't always need an MRI to see what's going on, because sometimes that shows us pieces of the puzzle that are not at all contributing to your symptoms that you're coming in with. And so if we can go off of what you're feeling clinically first and what you are not doing from a foundational standpoint first, get that in place, then lab work's going to paint such a better picture, because then it's going to help us fill in the gaps instead of just feeling almost overwhelmed because there's so many markers on the data
So many
points.
things that are wrong. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, 100%. And it's like, this is one thing that people do not realize about their health journey and about healing, is that the little things are the big things. And it sounds so like unsexy to tell you to go to bed. And literally women are like, that can't be it. Like in your head, when you're like, if I'm experiencing 7, 8, or 9 or 10, a level 10 symptoms, it cannot be that my sleep or my hydration is going to be what fixes it, right? There's this idea that like the bigger the problem, the bigger the the tactics that we need to take.
Sure.
When it's really like, it feels like it's going to be this monster. And it must be that I have a million things wrong on my lab work, and I must need a full 4-month protocol with 15 different supplements. And I might need to go get a blood transfusion. Like, it's like, it feels like it's going to be something like an MRI. Like, it feels like it's going to be something that's like massive because I feel so bad. And that's where it's like, I like, that totally makes sense. And I used to think that too, but go back to the house idea. The entire house will crumble if there's a crack in the foundation.
Right.
Like, that is enough. Everything else could be structurally sound. But if it was built on sand, or like there's a huge crack, or something is rotting, or there's like the floor is falling out underneath, like nothing else matters. And so it feels counterintuitive to say that the foundations are what are the most critical part to healing. But people definitely see it as optional when it's what's essential.
Absolutely. So let's say we've got most of the foundations in place, but somebody is still coming to you with low energy, irregular cycles, mood changes. Where do you typically go next with them?
I do love a good blood work run. a good deep dive. We test like 100 markers in our initial blood work, and getting like a full scan. I will say though, even if someone comes in saying that they have good foundations, I need to see it, because it's very, very rare.
Yes.
That it'll be, and there's some people that come in like really, really solid, but still there's usually something that's off. And then I'll tell you the truth. So like one of the things we have, like I have an intake form where I get to see everything. I do a food and mood log where I want to see about 7 days of your eating, your reactions, your movement, your bowel movements. That tells me a lot. Your hydration. That's a big one. People, I'm glad you brought up water, because people literally don't believe, like so many of my clients this past month, they're like, I'm pissed because I feel so much better because I'm drinking 3 water bottles a day. And I didn't think it was going to be that simple. And it's like, it's so crazy. And that's also where I think, like, if you are a Christian, if you believe that God designed our bodies, then like our Lord is so mysterious, and there's so many things that we will never understand this side of heaven about him. But he also reaches out to us with so much simplicity. Like, there are so many things that he makes make sense, and there's so many ways that he reveals himself to us in nature, that I don't think that everything should be complicated. I think that like the simplicity is kind of like a hallmark of God. Like, he chose to come as a little baby. Like, it's like there's this simplicity, and there's this beauty to the way that the Lord works. But with another big thing though is, let's say that your foundations look like they're in line. We're going to check your blood work, of course. And there's usually something deeper there where you're looking for things like heavy metal burden, mold burden, parasite burden, the things that are not going to get addressed on typical labs, or even just the fact that like the way that they read your labs at the doctor's office, that's why they're telling you that it's normal, because they're looking at survival ranges. And like survival is like, okay, you're like still alive, but these ranges are constantly like, they're different now than they were in the 70s, because they're averages of the public. And the last thing I want is to be average with the rest of America, because unfortunately, like, our nation is very, very sick. And so that's why you're like, I feel crazy, I keep going. And they say, or like, I have a lot of women that'll be like, I have so much family history of thyroid issues, but they keep telling me that my thyroid is fine. And then we check the full panel, which they're not usually checking a full panel, or we check the antibodies, and it's like, oh yeah, there's some like raging Hashimoto's under here. Like, of course you feel terrible. But let's say that like we look at this has not happened, but let's say if we were to look at the labs and there wasn't a ton of glaring things, there usually is like a lot that we find. Another big thing is going to be the nervous system.
Totally.
So this is like a big gut check that I had a few years ago. When I was still in school, I think there was a certain class where we talked about the type of client that is going to get better, and to pay attention. And I was doing this own gut check with myself, that it was like the person that is like jumping from practitioner to practitioner, the person that is always on some kind of protocol, the person that when you ask them like, hey, what have you tried, only tells you bad things about how everyone else didn't help them, and like puts a lot of blame. That's usually just signs of like a really dysregulated nervous system. And there's a lot of woundedness there, and it's really hard to heal in that state. And so making sure that we get your mind into a place of gratitude, into a place of like, everything is going to work for my good, and I have peace and I have trust. And sometimes that means like taking space in between practitioners. Like maybe you need, I've had multiple people that I've been like, hey, like we cannot start right now. We need to give you like a few months break, and you're free to come back anytime. I would love to work with you. But right now I just sense that you need a pause. And so that's like one thing I always look for when someone says that like I've done everything and all of their foundations, like everything is right. I've implemented so many things, but I still feel awful. Yes, we're going to check the deeper labs, but also I like do a little check on what does their like mind and heart sound like, because sometimes that dysregulation, it's you can't heal in that state.
Totally. And when you notice that that nervous system feels dysregulated and not ready to work with another provider, when you have them take that pause, are you telling them to just spend more time in stillness? Are you telling them to find quiet and less overstimulation? Like, what cues are you giving them to help start to regulate their nervous system?
Yeah. I like to encourage people, which, yeah, it sounds ironic because I have a podcast too, and I have my Instagram page and I have all these things. I'm like, put it all down. Like, don't go read fiction. Go stop yourself from reading health related things for a little bit, and like learn how to just like tune into your body again. And then also when you stop having a constant input, you can focus on the things that you do know how to do. Because I do believe that so many women are well educated now, and they have like done a lot of work to take in like what ought to I be doing. They just like don't have the space to implement it. So it's like sometimes just grab a pen and paper and write down, here are all the things that I know that I should do, which is a lot of things that I hear from women too. And typically when they work with us, part of what they want is that they know what to do, but they want the space to have the support to implement it and to like focus on building the habits and having discipline in that way. But write it all down. Like if you're like, I know I should be sleeping 8 hours. I know I should be drinking this much water. I know I should have protein every meal. And I know I should probably be walking outside. Even if that's like all it feels like, then it's like amazing. Go spend like 2 months just doing that and start to see how and pray. Like what has your prayer life been like? Go pray about healing. Go pray about if your heart believes that Jesus is trustworthy, and then like see what unfolds.
Yeah. And to develop those habits, because when we start to try to implement everything at one time from all of these different sources, you're not doing everything well, to that point we talked about earlier. But when you lay one foundation in place and another, it's like a brick by brick mentality, and you master that first layer, then you can master that second layer. But when you're trying to do it all at once, it's just going to be very disheveled and not a strong foundation. So I love that. I think that's a very, very good point. Now, Flor, can you break down the role that food plays in supporting hormone health, especially for women in their reproductive years?
Yes. Okay. I have this formula that I call like the feminine wellness formula. In order for your feminine body to feel strong and fertile and balanced and good, like you should be feeling good every single day, most days of the year. It's this formula of safety and abundance. Those are the two things that your body is looking for. And one of the strongest ways that we can give those signals is through our food. Like, yes, sleep is going to be really important here. Community is really important here. Your circadian rhythm work is really important here, but think about it just with food. So safety, your body needs to know, because we consider fertility as like one of the greatest hallmarks of a strong and healthy body, which if you are listening to this and if you are on your journey to trying to conceive and it has been long and it has been hard, I love you so much. And like your body's doing its best and it's working towards that. Don't think that your body is like broken if that's not working right now, but we do like understand that is what the feminine body is designed to do. And so when we look at health from the fertility perspective, it starts to unlock a lot of things, and so much of the noise will fall away. So much of like, which diet should I be doing, will begin to fall away. Because if we start with the safety piece, the body needs to know that it's safe. Think about pregnancy. Think about what a vulnerable position that you are in. You are carrying new life. You're also going to get bigger and slower. You need a lot of food. You probably need protection. Like from a survival standpoint, this is a very vulnerable time. And so one way that we can communicate safety to the body and being like, this is a safe time to get pregnant. This would be a safe time to reproduce. It needs to know that we have enough food. Are you eating throughout the day? Do you wake up and eat breakfast? Or do you like fast until 2:00? Are your eating windows erratic and irregular? Does your body know when to expect food, or is it like completely random? And then like, is it getting what it needs to feel safe? So this is kind of from a blood sugar perspective of, if you have these well-formed meals of a balanced, plenty of protein, the right carbs that work for you, plenty of healthy fats, then the body can have this kind of stability with the blood sugar. But if not, we have these like massive cortisol spikes and just the chaos that comes from blood sugar dysregulation. Your body sees it as an emergency. It thinks like, this is a big problem. And so then the focus is on like, okay, like, let's get her blood sugar balance back in. Let's pull out all this extra glucose out of her bloodstream and let's put it into muscles. Let's put it into the liver. Let's put it into fat cells. Or if it drops too low, it goes, this is emergency. We need to keep her alive. So now it's breaking down muscle tissue. It's pulling it out of fat cells. It's pulling it out of the liver. The pancreas is acting up, all of these different things. So we want to get our body out of an emergency state so that it knows, hey, everything is fine. Because once it's out of that emergency state, well, now it can focus on healthy estrogen and progesterone levels, right? The things that we like hear about all the time when it comes to our hormones and our fertility. And then the second piece of that abundance piece is, think of how many nutrients your body requires to function. And especially as a woman, think about how many nutrients your body requires to develop a healthy egg and to ovulate. Like, I think our period is so dramatic and it's so like distracting. I always call it like the loud younger sister. Like, the little sister gets so much attention because she's usually like, ah. But really, it's the big sister that's like running the show. And I can say this because I'm the little sister and I know that this is exactly how it works at home. But the big sister is the one that's like keeping things afloat. It's kind of the same thing. Like, the whole point of your cycle is ovulation. That's what your body is gearing up towards. The period is really dramatic and it's very attention grabbing, but the point is that your body is trying to develop, release an egg, and potentially reproduce. So that takes a lot of nutrients. So when we start to focus on building plates out of abundance and having an abundance of nutrients and having like a nutrient dense focus on our food rather than just kind of the strange rules that come up with diet culture, honestly, is that food is something to control to be as small as possible. Or if you're like me, it was that and I had really bad gut issues. So it was like something to control to try and avoid pain and avoid symptoms, where what we really want to help focus on is, how can I give my body as many nutrients as possible so that it can function as well as possible?
I love that. And I think that ties so well into how to approach wellness without falling into perfectionism, obsession, and control, right? You know, our body is a temple that is in the Bible, but at the same time, we don't want to worship our body, right? So can you share what it looks like to pursue wellness without falling into these traps of perfectionism, obsession, or control?
I like the way you said that it's like, we know that our body is a temple, but we don't want to worship our body. Like, you don't worship the temple, you worship in the temple. It's like simply like the place where you encounter the Lord. And so I think a lot of Christian women have a fear, like very faithful Christian women do have this fear of like, if I start to really care about my health, will this become an idol for me? Either because they've seen that for other people, or maybe they've experienced that in their own heart, or they're just like wary of it. But again, like, the temple is the place where we go to worship. It is the place where we go to communion with God. Like, God took on our very own flesh. Your flesh is holy. And I think that there's this sneaky Gnosticism. So this like ancient heresy that has kind of snuck into the Christian mind that separates the body and soul. Where it's like, oh, my body is this and my soul is this, right? My soul is valuable. This is something that I can spend time on. This is something that I should be focusing on. But my body is just like a throwaway, or my body is working against me, or my body is broken. And we start to separate it when that's really not the reality. Your body and your soul are like juice to a peach. It cannot, like, when it's separated, we died. Like, that's what it is. But the human experience is that like you and your body are one. It is simply like a reflection. And a lot of times people think that it's this vessel. And I think part of that sneaky little lie is what actually leads us into then abusing the body, or misusing the body, or neglecting the body, which is really what it comes down to. When we're talking about extreme dieting and restriction, or negligence of like not caring, or thinking like, I'll just be like, I should be able to put pedal to the metal and my body should just be able to keep up. Like, it's fine that I sleep 5 hours. It's fine that I drink 20 ounces of water a day. It's fine that I eat one meal a day and half of it is coffee. But that's really not how it's designed to function. So I think coming back to like, what is the body for, and like, who is it for? And the reality is that wherever you go next, your body is going with you. Oh my gosh. You know what? I watched Lord of the Rings again the other day. Have you seen the trilogy lately?
Not lately.
Okay. I was crying. I forget how hard Samwise hits me, but it's at the end of the third movie where they're like climbing up the mountain and Frodo literally can't go on. He's so close though to freaking throwing the ring. And sweet Samwise looks at him and he's like collapsed on the floor. He's like, Samwise, I can't keep going. And Samwise goes, you know what? I can't do this for you. Like, he can't be the one that goes and throws in the ring. It has to be Frodo. So he's like, I can't do this for you, but I can carry you there. And he picks up his friend and he carries him up the mountain. I just started crying because what I was thinking about, that's how our guardian angels are. But two, like, that's how I want you to think about your body. Like, your body is your Samwise. That it's like, hey, I can't go out and do all these different things, but like, I'm going to carry you there. And like, that's the level of like relationship. When I talk about having a healthy relationship with your body, it's this like friendship. It's this understanding that it's like, oh, God gave me this to like go live on mission. And so I think like beginning to have reverence for the body is what can heal so much of the pain and the frustration. And really, like, you have to understand that like Satan hates you. You have to understand that as a woman, he is intentionally going after your body image, your relationship with food, your obsession with weight, to destroy you and to destroy your potential for new life, period. Like, that you have to these are like rules of engagement. If you are going to be a woman in this world, you have to understand that this is a key strategy that he has employed and that has affected millions of women, and it's kind of working. So like, we have to get up. We have to like focus and remember, this is warfare. This is a spiritual battle. Like, your body is a gift from God. This is a reflection. It's the image and likeness of God. So like, that alone needs to kind of like, okay, wait. I cannot talk to myself like this anymore. I cannot be tearing myself apart every single time I look in the mirror. I cannot be jumping from random diet to random diet and punishing my body for being hungry or for like not looking the way that I want it to look, or like, because I don't understand. This is what I was talking about with my husband last night too, that we were like, the way that women think that, like, let's say bad periods, because that was like a huge one for me and so many women, or PCOS is another important one, is like, it gets warped, and the symptoms that you see, you start to perceive as an act of warfare. This is my body attacking me. This is my body working against me. When the reality is that you and your body are on the same team, and your body's symptoms are its only way of communicating with you. The only pathway that it has to say, hey, and that's why we say, like, listen to your body whisper so it doesn't have to scream. So by the time we have this screaming of like PCOS symptoms, that your hair is falling out, your face is breaking out, you have male pattern hair growth, and you haven't had a cycle in 2 years, like, that's your body screaming. But the way that women like see it as warfare, this is my husband last night was saying, he was like, it's kind of like a general being in his like war room and planning things out, and then a lieutenant comes in and it's like, hey, we got some intel. There's like a certain people over there that need help, and there's people over there that like we need to look out for. And you go, oh my gosh, kill this guy. Like, it's like the lieutenant, the general being like, kill him. He's distracting me. Like, we got to get rid of that. Like, he's like being distraction, but it's like really like prisoners of war sending in like a hostage video being like, hey, we need help here. Like, that's how I want you to see.
Telling you exactly where to go.
Telling you exactly where to go. Mm-hmm. So it's really not that your body is like working against you when you have these symptoms. It's that it's going like, hey, this is exactly where we need your attention and where you need to focus, which is why a root cause approach is so healing, because it will take all those symptoms into account and it'll connect the dots. So that was a long way of saying, if we want to avoid obsession and restriction, we have to start from a place of reverence. You have to believe that your body is made good, that you are made good, that like the Lord has good plans for you, and that your body is a gift. And so the way that we tread with reverence, we tread with respect, we tread with curiosity instead of condemnation. And that's the way that you can like really start to be like, like what? Because you do have to play detective. You do have to be like, like why do I have diarrhea after these meals, but not after these? Or like, why is my face breaking out on certain days? Could it be like matching up with my cycle? Could it be certain products that I'm using? Like, you have to play detective, but we can only do that when we're in a state of like curiosity, and curiosity has to come from peace.
My goodness, what a good answer for that. That was so powerful. I love all of that. So for the women listening who is exhausted and does not know where to start, what are 2 to 3 actionable steps she can take today?
I would say grab a pen and paper and write down what do I know that I should be doing that I haven't been? And this is from a place of love and curiosity. You don't need to beat yourself up about, like, no, it's fine. I just want you to, like, third-party journalist. Write it down. If I had to know what I should be doing in my day-to-day life to take care of my body, and maybe I just haven't been prioritizing it, what would that be? And I want you to start there instead of listening to what everyone else is saying. Also, if you are a Christian, like, believe that the Holy Spirit guides you. And, like, believe that he, like, is trying to help you and that he is guiding you and he is telling you what is good. And so those things that come down on the paper, they actually might be, like, really critical pieces for you. I can't tell you how many times I'm with clients and I'm like, hey, like, this is one of the main things I need you to focus on. And they're like, oh my gosh, today I felt like the Lord was telling me that, or yesterday, I knew that you were going to bring this up. Like, there's so many sessions I have where the Holy Spirit goes and prepares everything beforehand. And it feels like I'm just, like, echoing what they're saying. Because the girl's like, I already knew that. I felt like, you know, and they just, like, needed that confirmation. So I would say, go ahead and write everything down. The second thing is we need to create some distance from your phone. That is, like, a big distraction. It's a big thief of peace, and it's a big thief of balance in the body, because there's so much, like, stress that comes from the phone, not just the blue light, which, like, people don't realize how intense that is, the EMF exposure, but also, like, your brain was not designed to take in that many people's lives. Like, when we're talking about social media, like, your brain was not designed to take in that much information and that much of other people's experiences and that much of what is going on in the world. It's just too much. Like, you're allowed to be little. You're allowed to be little and be like, you know what, Lord, these are your people. You take care of it. I don't need to know everything. And so creating some distance from the phone, my biggest recommendation is the first and last hour of your day should be 2 of the holiest hours in your day. These should be hours that are reserved for God. This is where it's like, it is a miracle and it is a blessing and it is a grace that he even woke you up today. So spending that first hour in peace. And then that last hour is like, well, you don't know. I don't know if I'm going to wake up tomorrow. You know, it's like a very memento mori kind of thing. But, like, yeah, like, let's spend that last hour well, and that he may, like, guide and protect us as we sleep. So I think those are 2 things. And then the third, since you brought it up and I have seen this so many times, let's just add water back to the list. I know you want me to tell you everything that you should be eating and everything you should not be eating. But, like, before we even get there, can you make sure that you're drinking filtered water with mineral drops back in it, remineralized, and let's say bare minimum 65 ounces. What's your bare minimum that you give clients that are like, I can't drink any water? What's your bare minimum that you give them?
I tell them half their body weight in ounces.
Yeah.
Like, which I know is, like, that's the goal. That's the goal amount. But yes, same. I would say bare minimum when they're like, whoo, I don't know if I can start there. I'm like 3 water bottles a day, right?
Same.
So around that, like, have 1 before lunch, have 1 after lunch, and then 1, like, throughout your afternoon or whatever. Because if somebody's working, like, before you have your lunch break, you have to finish a water bottle. After your lunch break, finish a water bottle before you leave work. And then when you get home, have another water bottle throughout the duration of your time that evening.
Yeah.
So that's a good, I think, giving them, like, time slots of when to have it by is great too, because otherwise they finish their work day and they're like, I had a cup of coffee. I had 2 cups of coffee. Does that count? I'm like, no. So yeah, I love the actionable steps. And that is something I hear a lot in terms of feedback, and what people really appreciate about the Holistically Well podcast is actionable steps from each episode that they can take and they can implement, because when we're given so much information, sometimes it's hard to know what that next step is or what action to take. So thank you for those 3 points. That was great. Now, Flor, where can people connect with you and learn more about your coaching and educational content that you provide?
Yes, I'm on Instagram at the Catholic Nutritionist. My website is thecatholicnutritionist.com. And then I have a podcast wherever you find podcasts called the Made Good Podcast.
Lovely. Well, that was so life-giving. I hope everyone listening is walking away with not just nutritional tools, but peace and permission to rebuild your wellness from the foundation up with grace. So if this conversation resonated with you, if you could do me a favor and share it with a friend. Share it with a friend who is working on healing her more hormones and her relationship with food, all from a Christ-centered and grace-filled approach, because that is exactly exactly what you're getting from this show. And don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so that you never miss a future episode. Until next time, stay well and remember, thriving is and should be your new normal.